Hey everyone, I'm Cosmic and welcome to The Cloud. We finally, after 7 months of waiting, got more information about Splatoon 3's side order. And it's not what anyone was expecting, probably, which is really cool. I definitely could do like a frame-by-frame analysis of this trailer, but I'm sure you can find that on other channels already, so instead, I'll just talk about some specific things that stood out to me and how I'm feeling about the expansion so far. So, I'll just come out and say it, I don't know if I'm totally sold on the gameplay yet. I think it will be really cool, and I totally have faith in the developers, but what I had been envisioning for this DLC was something more like a bunch of difficult platforming that actually made use of the Squid Roll and Squid Surge. So, it might just be me, but a focus on combat feels a little strange. Now, that's not to say that it's bad, that's not to say that that's all that's going to happen, and we definitely haven't seen enough of it to actually judge it yet. I'd bet most of this trailer is like tutorial in the first few levels. And really, I'm just happy that they're doing something totally new. I ragged on Return of the Mammalians for not doing enough new things, so for now I'll just keep my mouth shut and assume the developers have lots of good ideas for this new gameplay. Ultimately, I think it will be good, but there just isn't a ton here that immediately excites me. We just kind of see them shooting hordes of the exact same type of enemy. This obviously isn't what the whole game will be, but I guess since it's totally new, I'm just not sure what to expect, and I feel like the trailer could have shown it off a bit better, but at the same time I want to be as blind as possible going into this campaign, so I should just stop complaining. One thing that actually does jump out to me is using the Pearl drone, and yes, that's its real name, during combat. It looks like it will help us take down enemies and even use its own sub-weapons. It kinda just seems like what Little Buddy should have been, but hey, I'm not complaining if we get it now. Side note, but it is really funny how we were already comparing the look of this game to Nier Automata, and now we literally have a pod shooting enemies with us and damage numbers popping up on screen. The similarities only grow. But beyond that, being able to straight up choose difficulty is great, and I will definitely be making this game as hard as I can for myself because that's how I have the most fun, but like with past campaigns, it's nice to have options here. As someone who has replayed every Splatoon campaign countless times, I'm definitely a fan of the fact that they're straight up emphasizing replayability with this one. And the idea of making different builds for your character in a Splatoon game in a sort of roguelike structure could absolutely be super fun and replayable. Really, my main concern with this format is how it could potentially limit the storytelling. Splatoon, and lots of Nintendo games to be fair, are kind of guilty of having some exposition at the start of the game and then a big lore dump at the end of the game when we fight the villain with not a lot of story in between that. I think Octo Expansion balanced it out pretty well with the chat logs because it felt like there was still dialogue going on between the characters during the game. But it looks like we might literally just be in an elevator this time between levels, which might be a lot more limiting. Or I could be totally wrong about that, because the environments and all of the world building implications in this trailer are insane and I love them. So, alright, let's get to the good stuff. At least for now, it appears that we are playing as 8. We have Pearl inside a drone as a companion, and Deadfish of all people is here with a 3D model. Say what you will about Nintendo not listening to the player base, but the fact that they saw tons of people drawing fan art of Harmony and Deadfish and just said, yeah, what the hell, they're main characters now, is kind of awesome. Deadfish reveals what seems to be their real name, Oct.
Acht.
Like 8 in German, but also Oct meaning Octo meaning 8. Clever. And it's interesting how normal she seems. We don't know exactly how sanitization works, but even with Commander Tartar gone, she supposedly went through a kind of ego death. But if she's introducing herself by her first name, that might not be the case anymore. She does have this strange wristband on one arm and a bandage on the other, that was never present in her Octo expansion art. It's possible that she's somehow undone her sanitization or begun to heal from it? I'm not sure how I feel about that, honestly, but if it means we might actually get some sanitization lore in-game instead of in random dev interviews, that might be really cool. As for the overall setting and what's going on here, I don't really know. Back when the Side Order reveal teaser came out, I guessed that this was a version of Inkopolis Square that was like a simulation or a replica. However, lots of people commented that the official description for Side Order on the eShop seems to imply that this is the real Square. After this trailer, I'm still not sure. The way we see 8 spawn in as a bunch of polygons, summon her dualies, and stand in front of this matrix-looking wall does seem to imply that this is in fact some kind of digital dimension. But then Oct mentions being sucked into this place. Does that mean sucked into a computer simulation, or sucked into this suddenly coral-infested Inkopolis Square? I don't know. Really, this just raises more questions, which is cool. Like I said, I want to go into this blind, so it's fine if we don't figure out the whole story now. We are able to piece together a couple of things from the first 2 trailers, though. Like, this red-eyed fish we saw back in February seems to be related to the fish-shaped enemies we see 8 fighting. There was a lot of art that featured elevators in that teaser, and now we know that's how we progress through the campaign. And all of this brain-related theming seems to appear everywhere, from the UI to the backgrounds to the names of the floors. And it's worth noting that there's no sign of Marina anywhere. Oct mentions that she used to know Marina, which I'm not sure we actually knew before, but it does make sense with them both being Octarian DJs who supposedly lived in the domes around the same time. So it seems like for at least part of the game we'll be searching for Marina. I personally hope that she's not the villain, unless they somehow find an interesting way to do that. It would also be lame if she was just captured or something, because, like, she's Marina. She's literally an ex-soldier and military engineer. I don't see her being much of a damsel in distress. For a minute, I thought that the orange splattershot design we saw in the teaser might have been scrapped in place of the dualies we see 8 using for most of this trailer, but we can actually spot it here on this icon for power upgrades, so it might still make an appearance. Another thing of note on this menu is the currency. Rather than power eggs or CQ points, we have a brand new type with this infinity logo, or more likely, an 8 turned on its side. We also see this logo on the palette, the upgrade board shown to us by Oct. There were a ton of elements in Octo Expansion themed around the number 8, so it's not surprising to see this kind of thing pop up again. But why would this facility, the Spire of Order, have any connection to the number 8? Is it related to Octolings, like 8, Oct, and Marina? Or is it just that this facility has some way to connect with the people who enter? In one of the opening shots of the trailer, we see this strange machine. The tentacle to the left looks very similar to a memcake from Octo Expansion. Memcakes are described as memories compressed into physical form. It's possible that this facility takes memories and turns them into memcakes. However, all the other objects on this conveyor belt aren't memcakes. This one appears to be a plush of a Dumbo octopus, and the others are hard to make out. This one looks a bit like a DJ turntable, so maybe it's related to Oct or Marina? It's also probably worth pointing out that 8 and Oct share the same name, just in a different language. I wasn't really on board with the cloning theory I've seen going around, but with all this imagery related to brains, memories, and multiple instances of the number 8, maybe there's something to it. Lastly, I gotta talk about this thing. This GLaDOS meets Wally steering wheel meets HAL thing. It's hard to say if this is the mastermind of the entire Spire of Order or just a boss fight, but it looks really interesting. It's clearly a machine, but there's this dark ink oozing out of it, similar to the fish enemies we saw earlier. It's definitely related to them, but in what way? Who knows. Honestly, this trailer feels like it tells us so much and also very little. I'm as excited as ever. I'm really glad this is going to be something totally new. I love the tone they're going for with this campaign, and I can't wait to see how it all pays off. I'm a little sad we didn't get a real release date, just spring 2024, but we can probably assume Side Order is coming out around the start of Fresh Season or maybe halfway through. And at this point, I am just so ready to get my hands on it. But for now, this is our time to theorize about gameplay, story, character development, everything. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to read some comments and carry on this conversation. But until then, thanks for watching. This has been Cosmic. Farewell.